Here's Chef Marek of The
Hello.
Sheet, and he has a big draft special tomorrow covering the NHL at large with Pierre Maguire and others. Should be a lot of fun. How are you?
Yeah, it'll be good. Yeah, thanks. I'm good. Pretty quiet in Vancouver, I'm suspecting, these days.
Yeah.
Nothing big to chew on at all. Just regular ho-hum kind of
Just
week.
wondering about Pew Suter.
Blake was just saying, like, we did... believe it or not, our show yesterday did some numbers. Evander Kane, he's just a very polarizing player. What did you make of the deal?
Until we found out that there were more teams involved in it, I think my initial thought was, how did Edmonton not have to attach something to the deal? Like, this was like the get out of jail free card for the Oilers here. Now, when you're competing against other teams, now that tends to make more sense. I'm not as sour on this one as I think a lot of people are, and here's why. One, provided he stays healthy. Two, I'm very happy to bet on Evander Kane in the last year of a contract. Right, where it's audition time, and I know that a lot has been made of. And listen, I understand why. I think we all do. You know, all the penalties in the playoffs, specifically against the Florida Panthers, lack of discipline, all those things. Listen, he was like a shark out there. He was looking to neutralize any type of physicality that the Florida Panthers were going to try to impose on the Edmonton Oilers. And as we've talked about before, I'd rather have someone on my team that I have to calm down as opposed to a bunch of players I have to pump up. It's hard to pump guys up. It's a lot easier to calm guys down. So I think when you throw in that sort of combination, listen, you guys know all about having to, pump someone up who's not really there. That's not Evander Kane. I'll take guys you have to calm down all day long.
Canucks fans will deal with bad penalties in the playoffs.
I was going to say,
when they get to them.
Hey, no, but here's the other thing.
Vancouver's got the third best penalty kill. They're fine. They're insulated. Right. It's just no problem.
Plus, everybody in this market knows what it's like when you're going up against the Boston or Florida Campbells. It's a difficult series to win in the Stanley Cup final.
It's waiting.
Do you know who else was involved on Kane?
I don't. I don't know the other teams. That is going to be part of my homework in advance of either today's show or tomorrow's special. But yes, that's a very good question. I do believe that and there always has been, marketplaces for Evander Kane, even though there is that historical baggage that comes along with him. Now, I was told that there were no issues in Edmonton. I was told that everything was fine. This isn't like Winnipeg, Buffalo, San Jose. This isn't like that. I was told that Evander Kane, that there wasn't the friction that there's been elsewhere when I checked in with someone from Edmonton.
But as we've talked about, there's some pretty big horses in that room. There's some pretty big names and stars that anybody with any sense would defer to.
And
not so in Vancouver.
And he came in at a time with the Edmonton Oilers where it was very much, that was the lifeline, right? That was Ken Holland throwing the lifeline for Evander Kane. Like, don't forget, like, the Oilers and specifically Holland were met with a lot of scrutiny when he did that. But I'm told that everything was fine.
Yeah. And so now the question is, what next for the Canucks? Because they've lost 5.125 of cap space to Evander Kane. There is not a lot of crumbs left over to find a second line center in today's inflationary world. So, now it's very real. As much as you say, hey, they didn't spend really any assets to get Evander Kane. Yeah, but now they're going to have to spend assets off their roster to create cap space probably for that second line center.
Yeah. Listen, this is a... outside of Mitch Marner, for example, like, this is sort of an underwhelming free agent class. If you want to go shopping, if you're gonna do anything, you're gonna have to trade for it. I mean, I think we all expect at the end of the day, John Tavares is most likely going to find some type of agreement with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Otherwise, teams like Anaheim, maybe teams like Utah as well, are going to throw big numbers at John Tavares, because I did wonder if he could be an option for the Vancouver Canucks. But I think as the days continue here, even though there's still a part on the deal, I think at the end of it, Tavares wants to be in Toronto. Toronto wants to have Tavares there. There's an understanding on both sides, deadline spur deals, and that'll happen. But yeah, Vancouver's going to want to address that second line center hole, as we all know that they will, and it's probably going to be done by trade. I'll tell you what, I would start looking at the New York Islanders. I really, really would. You know, one of the things now with Matthew Darche coming in, first of all, Matthew Darche with the Islanders right now is being tested. Make no mistake, every general manager, every agent, new meat, new GM, he's being tested. And I would imagine veterans like Jim Rutherford, specifically Patrick Allvin, will be testing Matthew Darche as well. And don't forget, the Islanders are a team very much right now that needs to figure out on whose timeline are we doing this. Right? Like, how is this going to happen here? Who's going to be aged out by the time this team actualizes? I'd be looking at the Islanders. I think a lot of teams are looking at the Islanders right now, especially tomorrow when they draft Matthew Schaefer.
I was going to say I'm somewhat baffled at how it's gotten to maybe we'll trade Noah Dobson, but I'm equally as baffled with maybe we'll trade Noah Dobson but keep Horvat and Barzal. Like, that seems like a little bit of 1 foot in one column, 1 foot in another column.
Trade the 25-year-old, keep the 30-year-old.
No, exactly.
I know. Again, no one has told me definitively, but whenever I see situations like this, I always say to myself, I'm not being told something specifically. Like, there's something else at play here. Is it an issue with the coach? Is it an issue with another player? I don't know. I haven't been told specifically, but your point is the right one, very much the right one, that something we're not really being told something here, which is why, like, I think that the Islanders are going to have to make some decisions on the blue line. Look, Isaiah George is ready to play. Matthew Schaefer may come in as early as next season, although I think he's probably ticketed to go back to Erie. Like, their blue line is going to look a lot different. I think they're trying to move Scott Mayfield, trying to convince him that ice time is going to be at a premium for him. Romanoff is another issue altogether. I wonder if he could be on the block as well. But I think the Islanders right now, and we think that, they might be trying to get another top 10 pick so they can bring in James Higgins as well here. It wouldn't surprise anybody if, one of the most frisky teams here are the New York Islanders. Like, look down the middle.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I was talking to someone about this the other day. If I was the New York Islanders, now this doesn't settle a second line center spot for the Vancouver Canucks, but as we're on the Islanders topic here, as everybody now wants this style of player more so than ever, I would be looking to move Casey Cizikas. 2 years, 2.4 per season. They're not going to be doing it on his timeline. Players like that are very much in demand, specifically after we just saw the Florida Panthers win another Stanley Cup. I think we wonder about Jean-Gabriel Pageau and what the future there is. The speculation is, you hang on to him until Christmas, until Cal Ritchie is ready, play 30 games in the American League, then the kid comes up, and then there's that shuffle out, shuffle in between those two. But can you get him before that? Like, I think the Islanders have a lot of decisions here as they try to figure out, okay, we need this whole thing needs a fresh coat of paint. We're not in the Lou era anymore. What do we do? Who's wanted on the voyage? Who's not wanted on the voyage?
Russo's
go ahead.
I was going to say Russo's reporting on the Minnesota Wild situation with Marco Rossi is that now it's points in, points out. You want Marco Rossi? I need the same amount of points from a forward coming back the other way.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of that, by the way. There's a lot of that, Blake, like around the entire NHL.
Yeah.
Around the entire NHL, everybody wants.
No one wants futures.
Yeah. But it almost does it not feel this way? You guys remember the Montreal Dallas deal so many years ago? Mike Ribeiro for Yanni Niinema, and it was the okay, your issue for my issue. And maybe we just kind of saw that with Chicago and Seattle, with Joe Veleno for Andre Burakovsky, two players that we wondered, were they both headed for a buyout here? And each team just sort of saved each other a little bit of money and are going to say, like, okay, we're going to give these guys one more kick at the can. Although I still think that Joe Veleno might be a candidate for a buyout, considering he's under 26 and that's only 1/3. But does it not feel like it's at the point where it's like, to Russo's point with Rossi, it's, okay, points in, points out. We need something of equal value here. But also, teams always have headaches. And do you think we might get okay, you take my issue and I'll take your issue?
But Freddie Gaudreau gets traded from the Wild today. I almost wonder if they're resigning themselves to re-signing Marco Rossi. Is that creating $2 more million of space now? Because they just feel like they got to sign Rossi at this point.
I'm biased because I really like Marco Rossi. I think Marco, and listen, there's a positional need there in Minnesota.
Yeah, there is.
I think that they were very much in the hunt for JJ Peterka, who ends up in Utah. I think there's a side issue with the Utah deal if you guys want to get into as well. But I think that this is a team that was very much in it for JJ Peterka. That didn't work. I do wonder if they do just go back to Marco Rossi. And I really like the player. I like how he performs. I like how hard he works. They're out of a salary cap hell now. And finding centers is hard. Finding centers is, listen, I don't have to tell two guys that host a show about the Vancouver Canucks how hard it is to find centers.
So I hear that Russo points in, points out thing, and I hear one last desperate attempt from Bill Guerin to get a roster player for Marco Rossi. Like, do you think the price tomorrow on the floor? I guess there is no floor anymore.
There's no floor tomorrow.
But do you think the price on the floor tomorrow is futures? The best futures.
I don't think he settles.
They don't know. I think we talked about this last week too. I just can't see it. Like, they're not in the green banana business. Like, they have enough. They have enough prospects. They need to turn these. They need to turn. And now, for the first time, there's going to be expectations without the excuse, right? You can't say they have the salary cap handcuffs on, because now this is okay. Now you're going to stand on your own. You're going to stand on your own 2 feet. They don't have that excuse to lean on anymore. I would be surprised if they just went back and said, we'll take picks.
A lot of people, I think, last night were wondering, how did Utah get JJ Peterka so cheap? Or was it cheap? You tell me.
I think there's a second part to this. So
like
I think
a future deal coming?
Things. I think what it does is opens up something that I think the three of us have discussed before on this program. So first of all, yes. That is, like, I don't want to say it's as far as, they robbed the bank and didn't have to wear a mask. But that is overwhelmingly a win for the Utah Mammoth here. Now, I like Michael Kesselring, and I think he's going to play well with Owen Power, and Owen Power probably needs that type of insulation on the right side. I like Josh Doan. I think he's a really good middle six player. None of these rise to the level of the quality of player that is JJ Peterka, and can do the hardest thing in hockey, and that is score goals. The side to all of this, and I was wondering how they were going to get there, but now all of a sudden Utah has opened up a spot on their blue line for a right shot D. We've talked about Aaron Ekblad before. I would not be surprised. Because we all know Utah's doing big things here, and they have, at least we'll see what they end up doing with the 4th overall pick come Friday. I would not be surprised at all if that's the move that sets up the spot for Aaron Ekblad to fill on the Mammoth blue line. Would that surprise? They need a first. Listen,
no, it wouldn't
Aaron
surprise either.
Ekblad playing with Mikhail Sergachev. Can you not see that? Because I can see it all day long.
Yep. The goalie market sounds like it's reasonably robust. What are you hearing there?
People want goalies. We should throw another one into the mix too. One name that should be out there, who really hasn't been, and that's Daniil Tarasov of Columbus. Jet Greaves is the future of the Columbus Blue Jackets in net, full stop. And we saw that towards the end of the season. The Blue Jackets have tried to move Elvis Merzlikins before. Don Waddell has talked about this. it's a difficult trade to make. That's a tough salary cap commit to move. But Jack Greaves, make no mistake about it, will most likely be the backup next year for Elvis Merzlikins. What does that mean for Tarasov? Probably a trade. Now, he is not without his blemishes. I think he's only played like 70 games in the NHL.
Yeah,
I don't
65.
know about you guys. Was it 65? So he's played 65 games in the NHL. I tend to not make my mind up about goaltenders until they at least play 100. Like make minimum 100 games, then I'm comfortable. Kind of like have the idea of, go around the NHL at least once so all the shooters can see you and get the book written on you, and then rewrite that book after shooters figure you out. So it's a gamble if you're bringing in someone like Tarasov because you don't know, but that's one name that is out there and should be out there, but there's a lot attached to that. There's a lot of risk attached to that if you're thinking about putting him in a significant position. I've wondered about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Kevin Adams, I'm sure you saw his press conference the other day where he said like they're fine with both their goaltenders, Luukkonen and Levi. Levi is 20 or 25 games away now from needing waivers. The goalie market is interesting in Vancouver, which is maybe where I should have started because Artur Silovs, holy smokes, did he ever look and he looked fantastic for Abbotsford. And I'm not sure where you guys sit on this issue, but I've always felt that it's harder to be a goalie in the American League than it is in the NHL. Because things aren't perfect in the American League. There's a lot of broken plays and the shot goes off the heel or the toe. Like things aren't as clean as they are in the NHL. And as a goaltender, when you're always preparing for something clean, which you're going to get in the National Hockey League, it's a lot easier than a lot of the broken stuff that we see in the minors. So I've always maintained that the one place where it's harder to play in the American League is in net, which makes Shilov's performance even that much more impressive. But what do you do? Because the waiver monster is out there.
Yep. And if they're going to sign Thatcher Demko and Darren Dreger, pretty sure that they are, then, you have to explore the trade market there. You're not going to get that guy through waivers, are you?
I would not think so. I mean, so much of it comes down to timing, too. Like maybe you want to do it early. You want to do it early before everyone makes up their mind.
Jeff,
about, like,
there are
Shelovs.
There are Shelovs level goaltenders that get through waivers on roster setting day all the time. We saw it with Jacob Markstrom here in this market, Blake, all those years ago. So that is the time to do.
But having said, I apologize for interrupting. There is something to the idea of, and we're thinking about the Edmonton Oilers here. There is something to be said of coming back with Skinner, but you want someone else to be a complement to Skinner who could potentially take over, and it wouldn't be the worst idea to look to the American Hockey League to try to find that goaltender. Like Shelovs has had the incredible run, and he's fantastic. Someone else who had a really good season and turned some heads, Vancouver Canucks fans know this guy well, is Michael DiPietro with Providence. Like Mikey DiPietro had a really, really good year. He got taxi squatted to death, and we wondered, like, oh man, is he getting taxi squatted out of a career here during the pandemic? But thankfully for him and for his career, Michael DiPietro is probably going to be on some team's radar out there. Wouldn't be the worst idea if you're Edmonton, because we're focusing on the NHL goalie market. There's plenty of good goaltenders in the American League.
Who do you like for the Canucks if they keep 15th overall tomorrow?
There's a few. I mean, if there's, I don't think Kashan Aitchison, the big hard-hitting defenseman from the Barrie Colts, is going to get by the Pittsburgh Penguins. I really don't. But if somehow that happens, that's my guy. If I'm Jim Rutherford, Patrick Alvin. I think you and I, the three of us, have talked about Cole Reshny before, formerly of Victoria, now going to Nodak. I like Cameron Reed, a very safe, steady defenseman for the Kitchener Rangers. He doesn't do one thing that's like super flashy, but he's just like a really solid, consistent defenseman. That would be someone that I would have a look at. And if you're looking for, here we are having the conversation today about centers. If you want a big, strong horse down the middle, I would look at Jack Nesbitt, who's a big, strong, powerful center from the Windsor Spitfires, who will probably be available in that 15 spot as well. Those would be the guys. I mean, Lyndon Lakovic, I would look at as well for Moose Jaw. But I mean, that's the sort of range that we're looking at, or the quality of player that we're looking at the 15th overall pick. I'm still skeptical that they're there though. Like that Vancouver makes
I know.
that pick. But if they do, like to your point, Matt, those would be the guys that I think would be in that conversation.
Alvin said yesterday he's had more conversations about moving down than he has moving up. It almost sounds like it's hard to move that pick for NHL roster currency, but it might be easier to move that pick down for something because it's right at the end of what many suspect will be the tier people want to hop into, right, to get their given first round prospect. Yep.
You know what's interesting? This is the 1 week. There's always a couple of weeks every year. Free agency is the other one, so they dovetail. Where I'll just be blunt. Everybody lies to you, right? This is smoke screens and black curtains and ignore the man behind the curtain and mirrors and
messaging,
camouflage.
Right? I got a message out there to the media that I'm doing this, but I'm actually doing this.
That's right. Yeah. Don't look over here.
Right.
Look, it's sleight of hand week. So I always take everything that I hear this week with a grain of salt.
As you should, Jeff.
Everybody is trying to put... I'll tell you, my favorite story of that was when Brian Burke, he told me when he was the manager of the Hartford Whalers, he said he deliberately would leave fake Hartford Whaler draft lists in the lobby of the team hotels. To throw him off, and that was specifically because they wanted to get Prong, and they had to make the deal with San Jose and all that. But specifically, he would leave Hartford Whaler draft lists, phony ones, all over the place in the lobby. So teams be like, dumb Berkey left this draft list. But that's the level that we're talking about here. So I kind of grain of salt everything as it leads into the draft, because we all talk about this every year. There's going to be so many trades. This team's going to move. They're going to swap picks. And then everybody goes and makes their picks.
Yeah. Maybe somebody will do the NBA draft trade of letting the player get drafted by a certain team and then trade to a different team.
Scott Van Pelt is my hero because he went on a stand for this. Enough is enough. Yeah. Stop asking the kid to come up in the biggest moment of his life.
Wear a different hat.
Put on the Houston Rockets hat when everybody in the world knows he's going to Phoenix. And 25 years later, his kids say, "Daddy, why were you wearing a Houston Rockets hat at the draft when you never played for the Rockets?" "Well, son, because the new league year didn't begin until July 7th and administration overall, let's put out visuals that are inaccurate in the second that they are taken."
Ridiculous.
Daddy, why
so
do
that the accountants and the lawyers in the new league year are happy with our clean admin? Ridiculous.
Why didn't things work out with Houston, Daddy? It's the same thing. I remember talking to Sam Gagne years and years ago, and just tongue in cheek, I said, "Well, how come things never worked out with you in Tampa?" Well, I was there for about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing it does is, oh my God, did you know that the Milwaukee Bucks traded Dirk Nowitzki? It's like, what? What do you mean they traded Dirk Nowitzki? He played 20 years, all of them for Dallas. No. He was drafted by Milwaukee on draft night, and they traded him for a pick, a few picks around that, and so and so and so and so. It's stupid. I'm glad the NHL, and I'm glad the NHL is going back to a centralized draft, or on the floor draft next year.
Listen,
it's the one advantage they had. It was the one sort of piece of drama that they created that other drafts and leagues didn't create.
I love the way they do it. I always have. And you know who else loves it too? The commissioner. And trust me, this is a victory lap for Gary Bettman, and he is going out the door and around the block to remind everybody this is what the managers wanted. Not the NHL office, not the commissioner. This is what the general managers wanted. I'll change it back if you want. But let's remember, this is what you wanted.
Like, I have a hard time picking sides in a Gary Bettman versus Steve Yzerman feud, but in this case, I am with Gary Bettman. Go Kamish, well done.
Yep.
Hot draft take for you.
Okay.
Radim Murtka, the Seattle defenseman.
Big, 6'6".
He goes in the top 5.
5.
Hot take.
Top 10 would be a hot take.
Nashville, Barry Trotz at number 5. What do they do? They draft defensemen, they draft more defensemen, then they trade defensemen for forwards. And then Utah, take a look at the pterodactyls that Utah has drafted in the past. I wonder, plus these forwards, it's like the second line center draft. I would not be surprised if a lot of these teams aren't gaga over these forwards and look at a 6'6" defender as more valuable. Okay.
The one tiny little thing about Nashville is for so long they've tried to grab scoring centers, scoring forwards. At their own draft, they tried to trade up with the San Jose Sharks to grab Will Smith, Askarov. They were dangling San Jose, and them actually eventually got around to doing that deal. And they also wanted Gabe Perreault. The Rangers got him one before Nashville's second pick in that draft, and they ended up taking Tanner Mollendijk instead. But there was very, very much a desire from Nashville to A, move up, and two, to grab Perreault instead of Mollendijk.
You're on a very tight schedule. You're in very high demand, so we have to get to the Jeff Marek Easter egg. Do you want degree of difficulty, high or low?
Low.
Let's go high. Let's go high.
Okay. There has been one instance in the modern draft where defensemen were selected first overall in 3 consecutive years. Name those defensemen.
Oh, God. 3 defensemen. Was that like the Berard, Redden era?
Brian Berard is correct. And I will tell you, he was the middle. There was a defenseman who went the year before him. There was a defenseman that went the year after him.
You want to give me the teams?
Florida and Ottawa.
Where was Phillips?
Chris Phillips, 96.
Chris
very
Phillips.
Good, Blake.
And Ed Jovanovski.
Very good, Jeff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Incidentally, who selected Brian Berard?
Islanders.
From Woonsocket, Rhode Island, he told the then awful expansion era Ottawa Senators he would prefer not to play for them, and so they swapped him for number 2 overall Wade Redden. Who was selected by the New York Islanders. Have a wonderful draft. We'll be watching.
See you, buddy.
Thank you for this. Until next week.
Guys.